They all called it the perfect marriage, the kind you see in magazines. Glossy smiles, rooftop parties, hashtags like Blackwood Bliss trending for weeks. Everyone said I was the luckiest woman in New York. "Thorne's such a good man," they'd whisper, eyes sparkling with envy. "You hit the jackpot, Ilara." But no one ever saw what happened when the doors closed and the lights went out. No one heard the shift in his voice, felt the grip that didn't leave marks, or watched the slow erosion of a woman who once believed in forever. I stayed silent for years. I watched. I collected every lie, every secret, every shard of truth he thought I'd never notice. And when the time came, I chose my revenge carefully. No laws broken, no violence, no screams in the night. Just the quiet, methodical unraveling of his reputation, his career, the entire life he'd built on my silence. This is how it began. This is how it ended. And if you've ever smiled for the cameras while bleeding inside, you might want to hear the whole story. Hey there, my name's Ilara Voss. Yeah, Ilara, like the moon of Jupiter. My mom was deep into astronomy when she was pregnant with me, convinced I'd be some kind of star child. She'd sit on the fire escape of our tiny Chicago apartment, pointing out constellations through the city haze, telling me I was destined for something extraordinary. I used to believe her. Fast forward 32 years, and I'm standing in the middle of a sun-drenched brownstone in Brooklyn, wearing a silk robe that costs more than my mom's monthly rent ever did, staring at my reflection in a floor-to-ceiling mirror that Thorne insisted we needed for the aesthetic. My dark hair is perfectly waved, makeup subtle but expensive, the kind of effortless beauty that takes an hour to achieve. On the outside, I'm the woman everyone wants to be. On the inside, I'm already keeping score. I met Thorne Blackwood at a tech conference in San Francisco 5 years ago. I was 27, hustling as a freelance graphic designer, flying out on my own dime because a potential client had dangled a big book cover contract. I remember the exact moment I saw him. He was on a panel about emerging cybersecurity threats, leaning back in his chair with that lazy, confident smile, fielding questions like he owned the room. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, just messy enough to look intentional, wearing a charcoal suit that fit like it was born on him. When the moderator asked about ethical hacking, he answered with this low, smooth voice that made half the audience lean forward, including me. After the panel, I lingered by the coffee station, pretending to scroll through my phone. He walked straight up, extended a hand, and said, "Thorne Blackwood, I saw your badge, Ilara Voss Design. Your portfolio's incredible. That dystopian cover with the shattered city skyline? Genius." I laughed, actually laughed out loud, because no one at those conferences ever noticed the designers. We ended up talking for an hour, missing the next sessions, trading stories about late nights and impossible clients. He was charming without trying too hard, funny in a dry, self-aware way. By the end of the conference, he'd asked for my number, and 6 months later, he proposed on a rooftop in Manhattan with the skyline glittering behind him like a promise. The wedding was everything Pinterest dreams are made of. Central Park in full spring bloom, cherry blossoms drifting like pink snow, 300 guests who flew in from everywhere because Thorne knew everyone. My dress was custom Vera Wang, simple, elegant, the kind that photographs like a dream. Mia, my best friend since college, cried through her maid of honor speech, telling the crowd how Thorne was the rare good one, the man who sees Ilara for the brilliant creative force she is. Our friends toasted us endlessly. They said, "You two are goals, relationship royalty." Social media exploded. Photos of us dancing under string lights, Thorne dipping me dramatically, my laugh caught midair. Hashtag Blackwood Bliss trended locally for days. Strangers commented heart emojis. My inbox filled with messages from women I barely knew. "You're so lucky. He's perfect. How did you find a man like that in this city?" I smiled in every photo. I thanked everyone. I posted the highlights myself, curated the narrative like the designer I am, because that's what you do when you're building a life people admire. You polish the edges until no one sees the cracks forming underneath. The first crack came smaller than I expected.
We'd been married maybe 8 months. Thorne had just landed a huge client at Sentinel Security, the cybersecurity firm where he was climbing the ladder fast. We celebrated at a sleek restaurant in Soho. Oysters, vintage champagne, the works. He was glowing, telling me about the deal, how it would change everything for us. I was happy for him, proud even. But when we got home, buzzed and laughing, I kicked off my heels and left them in the entryway. Thorne stopped short, stared at them, then at me. "Ilara," he said, voice suddenly flat. "Pick them up." I blinked, thought he was joking. "I'll get them in the morning, babe. I'm exhausted." His jaw tightened. He stepped closer, towering over me in that way that used to feel protective, but suddenly felt different. The air shifted. Not dramatic, just a subtle chill. I laughed it off, bent down, grabbed the shoes. "Yes, sir," I teased, trying to lighten it. He didn't smile, just watched me put them in the closet, then kissed my forehead like nothing happened, and went to pour himself another drink. That night, lying in bed with the city lights flickering through our blinds, I told myself it was nothing. Stress from the new client, too much champagne. Every couple has off moments, but something in me noted it anyway. A tiny flag planted in the back of my mind. I didn't tell Mia, didn't text my sister, didn't journal it. I just watched. And over the next months, I started seeing more flags. The way he'd casually scroll through my phone to check the weather. The offhand comments about my spending, even though my freelance income was solid. The subtle eyeballing when I talked too long about a design project. They were small, so small, no one else would notice. But I did. And I stayed silent. Because sometimes the smartest thing a woman can do is shut up, open her eyes wider, and start collecting the truth piece by piece. I had no idea then how big my collection would grow, or what I'd do with it when the time came. But that's the story, and it's only just beginning.
Fast forward to our first year married. We'd settled into that Brooklyn brownstone life like we were born for it. Lazy Sunday brunches at trendy spots in Williamsburg, iced lattes and avocado toast while we scrolled through our phones and pretended we weren't checking how many likes our latest couple selfie had racked up. Weekends meant impulsive getaways to the Hamptons if Thorne closed a big deal, or just wandering the farmer's market in Dumbo, his arm around my waist, both of us looking like we'd stepped out of a J. Crew catalog. From the outside, it was effortless. Inside my head, I was still riding the high of being Mrs. Blackwood, the woman who'd landed the guy everyone wanted. Thorne's career at Sentinel Security was exploding. He'd brought in 3 major corporate clients in 6 months, the kind with 8-figure budgets and C-suite execs who name-dropped him at board meetings. The office threw him a surprise celebration when he hit VP level, way ahead of schedule, and suddenly our inbox was flooded with invites to rooftop launches, charity galas, and private dinners in Tribeca lofts. I'd design invitations or branding mock-ups for some of those same events on freelance gigs, so it felt like we were this unstoppable power duo taking New York by storm. I was thriving too, in my own way. My graphic design business had grown enough that I could be picky about projects. I was doing covers for indie authors who were blowing up on Book Talk, branding for startups in Soho, even a limited edition poster series for a gallery in Chelsea. Money was good, really good. We split bills 50-50 at first, then Thorne insisted on covering more because you should be free to create, babe. It sounded romantic. I let it. But the first real fracture happened on a random Thursday night in October, about 10 months after the wedding. Thorne had a client dinner downtown, some fintech company worried about ransomware. He texted me around 9 that it was running late, so I ordered Thai takeout for myself, poured a glass of rosé, and curled up on the couch with my tablet, working on a moody book cover for a psychological thriller. The design was coming together beautifully, crimson drips over a shattered mirror, and I lost track of time. He came through the door just after midnight. I heard the keys jangle, the heavy thud of his briefcase hitting the floor, and then the sharp slam that made me jump. The air smelled like bourbon and cold city night. I looked up, smiling. "Hey babe, how'd it go?" He didn't answer right away.
just stood there in the entryway, suit jacket slung over one arm, tie loosened, staring at the coffee table where I'd left the takeout containers and receipt. His eyes narrowed. "Ilara, what the hell is this?" I glanced over, confused. "Dinner? I saved you some pad thai as you're hungry." He picked up the receipt between two fingers like it was contaminated. $52 on lunch today. I laughed, actually laughed, because it seemed so absurd. It was dinner, and yeah, I got the good stuff from that place in Fort Greene. Want some? His face didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. He stepped closer, voice dropping to that low register that usually made my knees weak in the best way, but this time it felt different. "We're not made of money, Ilara. You can't just drop $50 on takeout whenever you feel like it." I set my tablet down, still thinking he was half joking. "Thorn, come on. My last client paid the invoice yesterday. $5,000. We're fine." He didn't smile back. Instead, he reached down, grabbed my wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough that I couldn't pull away without making it a thing. His thumb pressed against my pulse point. "Don't waste my money like that again." The room went quiet except for the hum of the fridge. My heart started pounding in a way that had nothing to do with attraction. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, the "gotcha" grin, something. It didn't come. He held my gaze for another second, then let go, leaned in, and kissed my forehead like he'd just reminded me to take out the trash. "Long day," he muttered, loosening his tie the rest of the way. He walked past me toward the bedroom, already unbuttoning his shirt. I sat frozen on the couch, wrist tingling where he'd held it, replaying the moment. Was that control, anger, or just exhaustion talking? I cleaned up the takeout containers in silence, threw away the receipt, and told myself it was nothing. Everyone has bad days. He was drinking. The client probably stressed him out. By morning, he'd be back to normal, bringing me coffee in bed, calling me gorgeous in that sleepy voice I loved. And he was. Friday morning, he woke up sweet as ever, apologizing for being grumpy the night before. "Big account on the line," he said, nuzzling my neck. "Didn't mean to take it out on you." He even Venmo'd me $100 with the memo, "For whatever makes you happy today." I used it to buy new brushes and felt silly for overthinking. But something had shifted. Tiny, almost invisible, but I felt it. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing patterns. He'd pick up my phone to check the weather and scroll a little too long. He'd ask who I was texting when it buzzed during dinner, tone casual but eyes sharp. Once I mentioned a male author I was working with, super professional, married, twice my age, and Thorne's jaw tightened. "He better keep it professional," he said, half laughing. I laughed too, uneasily. The digs were subtle. My career was cute. My designs were pretty, never brilliant. When I landed a contract with a major publisher, he congratulated me, then added, "Good thing I've got the steady income, huh?" Like my success was a hobby that floated on his foundation. I didn't say anything. Not to Mia, not to my sister back in Chicago, not even to my therapist. I didn't have one yet. I told myself I was being dramatic. This was marriage, compromise, adjustment. Every couple had growing pains. But late at night when Thorne was asleep beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles and feel that wrist tingle again. I started keeping a private note on my phone, password protected, hidden in a folder labeled Taxes 2023. Just dates and one-liners. October 17th, came home drunk, grabbed wrist over takeout receipt, said, "Don't waste my money." November 3rd, checked my Instagram DMs while I was in the shower. November 12th, joked at dinner with friends that I spend money like it grows on trees. Small things, stupid things, things no one would believe were red flags if I told them. But I was watching now, really watching. And deep down, in a place I didn't want to name yet, I knew the golden facade we'd built, the one everyone else saw and envied, was starting to crack. Not enough for the world to notice, just enough for me to see the darkness underneath. I stayed silent, for now.
By the time we hit our second wedding anniversary, Thorne Blackwood was officially the golden boy of New York's cybersecurity scene. Sentinel Security had promoted him to Vice President of Client Relations, and the press ate it up. There was a profile in Forbes' 30 Under 30 issue with a full-page photo of him leaning against a glass wall in their Midtown office, arms crossed, that trademark half-smile making him look like he already knew all your secrets and was kind enough not to tell. The headline called him the guardian of the digital age. I framed it for his office. He loved that. We threw the promotion party at our Brooklyn brownstone on a perfect June evening. Rooftop decked out with string lights, a raw bar flown in from Maine, a DJ spinning chill house tracks low enough that people could still network. 200 guests showed up, investors, tech journalists, half the Sentinel executive team, even a congressman's aide who kept dropping hints about federal contracts. Everyone wanted a piece of Thorn. I floated through the crowd in a backless emerald dress that Mia had helped me pick out, champagne flute in hand, laughing at the right moments, posing for photos with Thorn's arm possessively around my waist. "You two are unreal," one of his colleagues told me, a little tipsy. "Like, seriously, Alara, how do you put up with this guy? He's too perfect." Thorn overheard and pulled me closer, kissing my temple for the cameras. "She's the one who keeps me grounded," he said smoothly. The crowd ate it up. Phones flashed. Later, the photos hit Instagram with captions like "Power Couple Goals" and "Living the Dream." Mia pulled me aside near the end of the night, eyes shining. "I'm not exaggerating, E. You're the luckiest woman I know. Thorn's a good man, like genuinely good. The way he looks at you, half the husbands here don't even look at their wives anymore." I smiled, clinked my glass against hers, and said something about being blessed. Inside, the words tasted like ash, because the shadows were getting longer. It wasn't one big incident. It never is, right? It was death by 1,000 tiny cuts. The way Thorn started suggesting what I should wear to events. "Babe, the red one shows too much cleavage for this crowd." The way he'd interrupt me mid-sentence when I was talking about a new design client, steering the conversation back to his deals. The way he'd check my location on Find My Friends just to make sure you got home safe when I went for drinks with Mia. But the real shift happened one night in August, 3 months after the party. I'd been working late on a rush project, a rebrand for a wellness startup that was launching in September. Thorn was at some networking dinner in Manhattan, so I had the loft to myself. I was deep in Photoshop, headphones on, lost in color palettes and typography, when my phone buzzed with a text from him. "Running late, don't wait up." No big deal. I finished the mock-ups around 1 a.m., sent them off, and crashed. He got home closer to 3. I heard the elevator ding, the stumble of his shoes in the hallway, the low curse when he bumped into the console table. The smell hit me first. Expensive cologne mixed with bourbon and something sweeter, floral, feminine. I pretended to be asleep as he undressed, slid into bed, and passed out almost immediately. But I lay there wide awake, heart thudding too loud in the dark. When his breathing evened out, I slipped out of bed, padded barefoot to the bathroom, and closed the door before turning on the light. His shirt was in the hamper. I don't know why I checked, maybe some instinct I didn't want to name yet. There it was, a faint lipstick smudge on the collar, soft pink, not my shade, and caught in the fabric, a long blonde hair. I'm brunette. I stood there holding the shirt like evidence in a crime show, stomach turning. Then I did what any rational person would do. I put it back exactly as I'd found it, turned off the light, and went back to bed. He didn't stir. The next morning, he was all sunshine, kissing my neck while I made coffee, telling me the dinner was productive, and promising to take me to the new rooftop in Dumbo that weekend. I smiled, said I couldn't wait, and watched him leave for the gym. That's when I started the journal. Not a cute leather-bound diary, nothing he could find. I created an encrypted note in a secure app on my phone, backed up to a private cloud only I could access. The first entry was short. August 14th. Came home at 3 a.m., lipstick on collar, pink, blonde hair, smelled like women's perfume. I added more over the weeks. September 2nd. Asked who L was in his phone. He said work contact, laughed it off when I pressed. September 18th, shoved me against the kitchen island during argument about me working late, no bruises, said I was paranoid for asking about his late nights.
That shove happened after I casually mentioned I'd seen him liking some blonde's photos on Instagram. Someone from Sentinel, his assistant Leela, he'd exploded, voice low and venomous. "You're checking on me now, after everything I do for us?" Then he'd backed me into the corner, hands on my shoulders, pressing just hard enough that I felt the edge of the counter dig into my back. "You're mine, Alara. Don't forget that." The next day, he brought home peonies, my favorite, and apologized for losing his temper. Work stress, he said. Big firewall breach at a client. I nodded, accepted the flowers, arranged them in the vase myself. But the journal grew. I started paying attention to everything. The way his phone was always face down now, the sudden password change on his laptop, the forgotten gym bag that smelled faintly of that same perfume, the late nights that stretched longer, the client dinners that didn't match the calendar invites I saw. And the physical stuff escalated in ways no one could see. A grip on my arm during an argument that left faint fingerprints for a day, a push toward the couch when I questioned a charge on the credit card, some hotel bar I knew he hadn't mentioned. Always careful, never hard enough to bruise visibly, always followed by flowers, jewelry, or a romantic weekend getaway where he'd be attentive and loving again. I never told anyone, not Mia, not my sister, definitely not my mom, who still gushed about that handsome son-in-law of mine every time we FaceTimed. Instead, I watched, I listened, I collected. Because by then, I understood something crucial. Thorne saw the world as the perfect husband because he built that image meticulously. And if I spoke up too soon with no proof, it would be my word against his. He'd charm his way out of it. I'd be the jealous, hysterical wife. So I stayed silent. But silence doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy. And the shadows were only getting darker.
Year 3 of our marriage felt like living in 2 parallel universes. In the public one, Thorne and I were unstoppable. Sentinel Security had just gone through a massive funding round, and Thorne was the face of it. Keynote speaker at Black Hat in Vegas, panelist at Davos, quoted in the Wall Street Journal as the future of ethical cybersecurity. We upgraded from the Brooklyn brownstone to a 2,400 square foot loft in Tribeca with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. Exposed brick, smart everything, a kitchen island bigger than my old apartment. Thorne called it the reward for all our hard work. Vogue did a spread on emerging New York power couples and featured our place. Me in a silk slip dress leaning against that island, Thorne behind me with his arms around my waist, both of us laughing like we didn't have a care in the world. The headline read, "Beauty, Brains, and Blackwood." Friends kept saying the same thing. "You guys are living the dream." Mia threw me a surprise 30th birthday on a yacht cruising the harbor, 50 of our closest, champagne towers, a live jazz band. Thorne gave a toast that had half the guests tearing up. "Alara isn't just my wife," he said, voice steady, eyes locked on mine. "She's my muse, my partner, the reason I push harder every day." Everyone awed. Phones were out. The clip went viral on TikTok. Comments flooded in. "This is what real love looks like. Marry me, Thorne. Alara, just so lucky." I smiled for every camera. I posted the highlights. I played the part. But in the private universe, the one that started the second our front door clicked shut, the dream was rotting from the inside. The control had gone from subtle to suffocating. Thorne monitored my freelance invoices now to help with taxes. He'd question any client dinner that ran past 9, any collaboration with a male designer. The verbal digs weren't disguised as jokes anymore. At home, alone, he'd call my work cute little drawings or arts and crafts. When I pushed back, the rages came, low, icy, terrifying. One night, I came home from a networking event in Chelsea, still buzzing from a potential 6-figure branding deal. I was telling him about it in the kitchen, excited, words tumbling out. He listened for 30 seconds, then cut me off. "You were out until midnight flirting with startup bros, and I'm supposed to celebrate that?" I laughed, thinking he was teasing. "Babe, it was all women except the founder, and he's gay." His face changed. He stepped close, backed me against the fridge. His hand came up. Not a hit, never a hit, but gripped my jaw, forcing me to look at him. "You think I'm stupid? I saw the location tag on your story. You're mine. Act like it." He let go before it left marks. Always careful.
The next morning, there were roses on the counter and a diamond tennis bracelet on my nightstand. Sorry, I overreacted. I just love you so much, it makes me crazy sometimes. I wore the bracelet, I thanked him, I posted a photo of it with the caption, "Spoiled by the best." But that was the night I decided, this ends on my terms. Not with a screaming match, not with cops or shelters or messy public fights. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of painting me as unstable. No, I wanted something cleaner, smarter, permanent. Revenge that left no fingerprints except on his life. I started small, practical. First, security. I installed a hidden voice recording app on my phone that activated with a triple tap on the side button. Audio only, no video. Legal in New York with one-party consent. I tested it in the bathroom mirror, whispering dates and details, then locked the files in an encrypted folder. Next, observation. Thorne was sloppy with his tech hygiene, thought his cybersecurity expertise made him untouchable at home. Same password variations for everything. Sentinel123 @ Lackwood456 @ I watched over his shoulder one night while he logged into his personal email on the couch, memorized the keystrokes, waited until he was in the shower the next morning, heart hammering, and tried it on his laptop. It worked. I didn't dig deep that first time, just long enough to confirm what I already suspected. An email chain with Leela R., his executive assistant, flirty banter that started professional and slid into late-night texts about needing to see you, screenshots saved to a USB drive I hid in a tampon box in the bathroom cabinet, old school but effective. Then I went further, work email, same password family. Buried in a folder labeled Old Projects, I found spreadsheets tracking client funds, money routed through shell accounts, skimmed percentages that added up to serious cash. Embezzlement, plain and simple. I photographed every page with my phone, timestamps visible, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. My graphic design skills helped more than I expected. I created fake folders on my own laptop labeled Wedding Photos and Tax Stocks 2024 to hide the real evidence in nested, password-protected subfolders. I set up a private Proton Mail account under a variation of my middle name, backed everything up there, and used a VPN whenever I accessed it. The web grew thread by thread. I learned his patterns. Monday nights, he'd work late, but Uber records, shared account, rookie mistake, showed drop-offs at a boutique hotel in Midtown. I drove there myself, parked across the street, watched him walk in with Leela, snapped photos from the car. Grainy, but date-stamped. Enough. Another night, he came home raging because a deal had fallen through. He threw a glass against the wall, inches from my head, shards everywhere. I stood frozen while he screamed that I distracted him all week. The recorder caught every word. I cleaned up the glass barefoot, tiny cuts on my soles that stung for days. He apologized with a weekend in Napa, first class, vineyard tours, the whole redemption arc. I smiled in every photo, but the collection kept building. Tax records, offshore accounts in the Caymans, more affairs, texts with a woman named C from a conference in Miami, audio of him mocking colleagues, admitting to planting backdoors in client systems for leverage. I never cried anymore. I was too focused. The fear was still there, though. Every time I backed up files, my hands shook. What if he noticed the laptop battery draining faster? What if he checked browser history? One afternoon, he came home early, found me at my desk. "What are you working on?" he asked, voice casual, eyes sharp. I said, "Just client revisions," closing the lid smoothly, heart slamming against my ribs. He stared for a beat too long, then kissed the top of my head and went to the gym. I added a new layer after that, a safe deposit box at a bank in New Jersey under only my name, physical drive, printed summaries, everything. If he ever got suspicious and wiped my devices, I'd still have it. By the end of year 3, I had enough to bury him, professionally, financially, socially. But I wasn't ready to pull the trigger. Not yet. I needed it airtight, undeniable, and I wanted to walk away clean. So I kept smiling for the cameras, kept posting #BlackwoodBliss, kept letting the world call me the luckiest woman in New York, while behind the loft's 3-locked door, I spun the hidden web tighter and tighter around the man who thought he owned me. He had no idea, and that was exactly how I wanted it.
Year 4 started with a bang. Literally. New Year's Eve on a rooftop in Meatpacking District, Thorne hosting a private party for Sentinel's top clients and investors, fireworks over the Hudson, black truffle pizza, a champagne fountain that cost more than most people's rent. He was in his element, shaking hands, dropping names, making million-dollar conversations look effortless. I stood behind him in a silver gown that caught every light, smiling like the perfect accessory. Someone from CNBC pulled us aside for a quick interview. "What's the secret to balancing high-stakes tech and a rock-solid marriage?" the reporter asked. Thorne squeezed my hand. "Priorities," he said. "I put my wife first, always." The clip aired the next day. My mom texted me a string of heart emojis. "See, I told you he's a keeper." 2 weeks later, alone in our Tribeca loft, he slammed me against the hallway wall hard enough that my shoulder blades throbbed for days. No bruises where clothes would hide. Thorne had perfected that art, but the pain lingered like a warning. The trigger? I'd mentioned wanting to take a solo weekend in Palm Springs with Mia and a couple of girlfriends. "You think I'm paying for you to go party with single women?" he hissed. "You're not going anywhere without me." The next morning, there was a new Hermes bag on the island and a note, "Can't wait for our next adventure together, babe." That was the moment I knew I couldn't do this totally alone anymore. Not because I was weak, God no, but because smart revenge needs allies, quiet ones, careful ones. I started by breaking my isolation in the smallest, safest way possible. I joined a Thursday night book club in the West Village, all women, mostly creatives and professionals in their 30s and 40s. We met in a cozy wine bar with exposed brick and velvet couches, supposedly to discuss literary fiction, but really we drank Pinot and talked about everything but the book. It felt like oxygen after years of holding my breath. That's where I met Quinn Harlow. Quinn was 38, sharp as a blade, with a sleek black bob, tortoise-shell glasses, and the kind of dry humor that could cut glass. She was a partner at a boutique family law firm in Midtown, specialized in high-net-worth divorces, NDAs, forensic accounting, the works. She'd written a thriller a few years back that got optioned, never produced but still, so she fit right in with the book crowd. We bonded over a shared hatred of overhyped domestic suspense novels. "If One More Wife narrates from beyond the grave," she deadpanned, "I'm switching to sci-fi." One night in March, after our third bottle and a particularly brutal discussion of Gone Girl knockoffs, the conversation turned personal. Someone complained about a controlling ex, another shared a cheating story. I stayed quiet at first, sipping my wine, but Quinn caught my eye across the table and tilted her head, like she saw something I wasn't saying. Later, as we pulled on coats to leave, she touched my arm. "Hypothetically," she said, voice low, "if a friend were in a marriage that looked perfect but felt off, what would you tell her?" I met her gaze. "I'd tell her to document everything. Quietly." Quinn nodded once. "Smart." Then she slipped me her business card, simple cream stock, no title screaming divorce attorney, just her name, number, and email, in case your friend ever wants to chat off the record. I didn't call for 2 months. Instead, I escalated my own operation. The hidden recorder became my constant companion. Triple tap activated, saved to the encrypted cloud. I captured gems. Thorne drunk on a work trip call, laughing about how he'd routed the retainer through the Caymans. No one will ever know. Another night, screaming at me for embarrassing him at a dinner by talking too much about my own work, calling me ungrateful, threatening to cut off your cute little freelance money if you don't watch your mouth. Every word timestamped. I upgraded the visual evidence too, a tiny 4K camera disguised as a phone charger, planted in the living room facing the couch where he took most of his personal calls. Motion activated, Wi-Fi connected to a private server. I caught him on video with Leela in our home, her on his lap, his hand up her skirt, both of them laughing about how Alara's too busy with her doodles to notice. I watched the footage once, stomach turning, then backed it up and never played it again.
but the loneliness was eating me alive. Nights I couldn't sleep, I'd sit on the balcony overlooking the city lights and wonder if I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. So in May, I finally emailed Quinn from my Proton Mail account. No names, no details, just hypothetical friend ready to talk. We met at a quiet cafe in Nolita on a Saturday morning when Thorne was at a golf thing in Westchester. I wore sunglasses and a baseball cap like some bad spy movie. Quinn showed up in jeans and a blazer, ordered an oat milk latte, and listened without interrupting while I laid out the broad strokes: controlling husband, financial irregularities at work, infidelity, escalating emotional and occasional physical intimidation. No names yet. When I finished, she stirred her coffee slowly. "Your friend's smart to be careful," she said. "Evidence is everything. Digital trails, timestamps, patterns. But it has to be gathered legally. No hacking, no trespassing. One slip and it all gets thrown out." She slid a plain folder across the table. Inside, a checklist: how to document incidents, safe ways to copy financial records he'd already given access to, one-party recording laws in New York, whistleblower protections for corporate fraud. If she ever decides to move, this is how she stays clean. I went home and cried in the shower, the first real tears in months. Quinn became my shadow ally. We met every few weeks, always different spots, always cash. She never pushed for details, just gave advice. Mirror his shared accounts. Anything he's given you access to is fair game. Use a separate device for sensitive searches. If there's embezzlement, the SEC loves anonymous tips with documentation. Meanwhile, Thorne's mask slipped more in public. At a gala for some tech charity, he got drunk and mocked a female board member to her face, disguised as a joke but cruel. People laughed nervously. I smiled tightly and changed the subject. But inside, I noted who had been there. Witnesses matter. One terrifying night in July, he came home early and found me transferring files to the external drive. I'd gotten careless, left the screen open for 30 seconds too long. "What are you doing?" His voice was deadly quiet. I slammed the laptop shut, heart exploding. "Client backups, big project due Monday." He stared, eyes narrowed. Then he grabbed the laptop, flipped it open. I'd locked it in time, thank God, but he demanded my password. "Thorne, it's work, confidential." I typed a decoy password, the one for my dummy account full of fake design files. He scrolled, suspicious, but found nothing incriminating, finally handed it back. "Don't hide things from me, Alara." That night, I moved everything to the New Jersey safe deposit box, added a burner phone hidden in my studio. Quinn's final warning echoed: "When you're ready to strike, we make it surgical. He'll never see the source." I wasn't ready yet, but I had allies in the dark now, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel completely alone.
Year 4 was when the tide finally started to turn. On the surface, everything looked stronger than ever. Thorne got named to some most influential in tech list by a big magazine, and we flew first class to Aspen for the photo shoot. Him in a shearling coat against snow-capped mountains, me in white cashmere at his side. The article called us New York's untouchable power couple. He had the spread blown up and hung in his office at Sentinel. I posted the outtakes on Instagram with the caption, "Grateful for this life and this man." It got 40,000 likes in a day. Mia commented a string of fire emojis and "still goals." I stared at that for a long time before hitting send on my own heart emoji reply. But underneath, cracks were spreading through Thorne's perfect world, and I was quietly helping them along. The first real shift came from an anonymous tip I sent in April. Using my Proton Mail and a VPN routed through 3 countries, I emailed a tech journalist I'd met at one of Thorne's events, a woman named Sasha who wrote investigative pieces for a major online outlet. I attached 3 heavily redacted pages from the embezzlement spreadsheets, just enough to show irregular transfers, account numbers blacked out, no names. The subject line read, "Potential ethics concerns at Sentinel Security. Source requests anonymity." I hit send at 3 a.m. from a coffee shop in Hoboken, then deleted the browser history and walked home across the river while the city slept. 3 weeks later, Sasha's article dropped. Questions swirl around financial practices at hot cybersecurity firm.
No direct accusations, just sources familiar with the matter raising flags about client fund handling and offshore accounts. Thorne exploded when he saw it. He paced the loft, screaming about jealous competitors and fake news, then spent the whole day in emergency meetings. That night, he came home and shoved me out of his way when I asked if everything was okay, hard enough that I stumbled into the couch. The hidden charger cam caught it all. His red face, the way he loomed over me, the venom when he said, "Mind your own fucking business, Ilara." I added the clip to the collection. After the article, Sentinel announced an independent internal audit. Thorne played it cool publicly, posted a LinkedIn statement about welcoming transparency, but privately he was unraveling, drinking more, sleeping less, snapping at everyone. I watched him delete emails and panic, move money between accounts late at night. Every frantic click was another thread in my web. I got bolder. In June, I created a fake LinkedIn profile, recruiter for executive placements in fintech, professional headshot lifted from a stock site, backstory polished. I connected with Leela. She accepted within hours. Classic. A week later, I messaged her about a confidential VP role at a competing firm, generous package. She bit immediately. We moved to encrypted chat. Over the next month, she spilled everything. How Thorne promised to leave me once his big payout came through. How he'd rage at her too when deals stressed him. How he'd bragged about cooking the books at Sentinel. Screenshots of every message, saved and timestamped. Then I went after family leverage. Thorne had a younger sister, Harper, in Boston, estranged after some blowout years ago. I found her through public records, created another burner email, and sent a carefully worded note. "I'm a colleague of your brother's concerned about his recent behavior, controlling tendencies, anger issues. If you've seen similar patterns, someone should know." She replied in 2 days. Turns out, Thorne had been the golden child who'd terrorized her growing up. Manipulation, lies, even physical intimidation when their parents weren't looking. She sent me old emails he'd written threatening her if she told anyone. I thanked her, assured anonymity, and added it all to the vault. The suspense was killing me by summer. Every day felt like walking a tightrope. Thorne's paranoia grew. He started using a Faraday bag for his phone at night, changed passwords weekly, even installed a nanny cam in the living room for security while we travel. I spotted it immediately, tiny lens in a fake smoke detector, and adjusted angles on my own hidden devices, but my pulse raced every time I transferred files. What if he checked the cloud activity? What if Leela mentioned the recruiter to him? The closest call came in August. I'd started tailing him on late nights. Nothing crazy, just Ubering a few cars behind, baseball cap and sunglasses even after dark. One Thursday, he told me he had a client dinner in Midtown. I waited outside Sentinel, watched him leave with Leela, and followed them to a motel in Long Island City. Seedy, cash only, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions. I parked across the street, zoomed my phone camera, and got clear shots of them checking in, his hand on her ass. I was backing out of the spot when he suddenly stepped out of the lobby again, alone, lighting a cigarette, scanning the street. Our eyes met through my windshield for a half second. I slammed the accelerator, heart in my throat, and merged into traffic. He didn't follow, but I took 3 different trains and a cab to get home, convinced he'd be waiting. He wasn't. He came in at 2 a.m., reeking of her perfume, and passed out. I lay awake until dawn, replaying it. Too close. Way too close. The next day, I called Quinn from a burner in Central Park. "I'm ready to talk endgame," I said. We met that night at a dive bar in the East Village, cash only, corner booth. I laid out everything: the fraud evidence, the abuse recordings, the affair documentation, the family corroboration. She listened, took notes on a legal pad, then looked me dead in the eye. "You've built a fortress, Ilara. This is enough for divorce with cause, whistleblower protection, maybe even criminal referrals. But timing is everything. We hit him when he's at peak visibility, maximum damage to reputation, minimum chance he recovers." She suggested Sentinel's annual user conference in Vegas that December, Thorne's keynote on ethics in the age of AI. Press, investors, the whole industry watching. Perfect stage for controlled chaos. I spent the fall preparing. Quinn helped draft anonymous packets, one for the SEC with financial proof, one for Sentinel's board and HR with harassment and affair evidence, one for select journalists with redacted bombshells timed to drop during his speech. Everything routed through proxies, mailed from different cities, no fingerprints. Thorne sensed something. He watched me closer, questioned my late client calls, even accused me once of acting distant. I deflected with smiles, sex, posted couple photos with captions like, "Forever grateful for this man." Bought time. But inside, doubt gnawed. Was this worth the risk? Some nights I sat on the balcony, city lights blurring through tears, wondering if I should just leave, take half in a quiet divorce and disappear. Therapy sessions, booked secretly, helped, but the fear lingered. Then November hit. Thorne closed his biggest deal yet, federal contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Celebration dinner, champagne, him toasting to the empire we're building. I raised my glass, smiled, and thought, "Enjoy the view from the top, babe. It's a long way down." The tide had turned, and Vegas was only weeks away.
Fall turned into a pressure cooker. Thorne was riding the highest wave of his career. Federal contract signed, stock options vesting, Sentinel's valuations skyrocketing. He bought a Porsche 911 Turbo in midnight blue, parked it in the garage like a trophy, and took me for a midnight drive over the Brooklyn Bridge just to feel alive. The city lights blurred past, wind whipping my hair, and for 30 minutes I almost forgot who we really were. He held my hand on the gear shift, grinning like the boy I'd met in San Francisco. I smiled back, snapped a selfie, posted it with "still the best ride or die" and a heart emoji. Comments poured in. "You two are everything. Marriage goals forever." But the whispers were getting louder, and I was the one turning up the volume. I'd finalized the packets with Quinn, 3 separate drops timed like dominoes. One, mid-November, anonymous SEC filing, detailed financial trail of embezzlement, shell companies, forged approvals, mailed from a copy shop in Philadelphia. 2, early December, board and HR packet, audio clips of Thorne admitting fraud, video stills of him with Leela in our loft, timestamps proving he'd used company resources for personal gain, mailed from Boston. 3, conference week, press packet, redacted affair evidence, harassment recordings, enough to spark headlines without exposing me, mailed from Chicago. Everything physical, no digital trace back to me. Quinn's paralegal handled the drops wearing gloves and nondescript clothes. I paid in cash from my freelance account. To add fuel, I left one deliberate breadcrumb. Late October, I printed a single page from Thorne's hidden Cayman statements, blurred the account numbers but left the dates and amounts visible, and accidentally slipped it into his open briefcase before a board meeting. I watched him find it that evening. He came home white as paper, waving the sheet. "Who the fuck put this in my bag?" I looked up from my laptop, feigned confusion. "What is that?" He stared at me, eyes searching for a lie. "You tell me, Alara." I stood, took the page, studied it like I'd never seen it before. Looks like bank stuff. Maybe someone at the office? Or, I don't know, babe, are you in some kind of trouble? The seed planted. He spent the next week tearing the loft apart looking for bugs, changing every password again, even accusing the cleaning lady. I played concerned wife, made him chamomile tea, rubbed his shoulders, suggested he talk to someone about the stress. He bought it, mostly, but the paranoia stuck. He started drinking alone in his office, muttering about enemies. I kept feeding the fire quietly. Leela was still chatting with my fake recruiter profile. By November, she was desperate. Thorne had started ghosting her, promising the big promotion that never came. I nudged gently. Sounds frustrating. Has he made similar promises to others? She unloaded, screenshots of him telling her I was on my way out, that he'd marry her once the money cleared, audio of him raging at her for texting too much. I saved it all.
Then Harper, his sister, emailed again. She'd found old journals from their childhood, entries about Thorne stealing from her college fund, gaslighting their parents, threatening her physically when she confronted him. She scanned pages and sent them. More pattern proof. The net was so tight now, I could feel it humming, but the suspense was brutal. Every day carried new risk. One November night, rain hammering the windows, Thorne came home early from a dinner that had clearly been drinks with investors. I was at the kitchen island backing up the latest recordings to my encrypted drive. I heard the key in the lock 30 seconds too soon, panicked, minimized everything, but the drive was still plugged in. He walked straight to me, eyes red-shot. "Give me your laptop." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Now, Alara." I closed it slowly, slid it across the marble. "Client work, NDAs." He flipped it open, demanded the password. I gave the decoy one again, dummy desktop with fake design files. He scrolled, suspicious, clicking folders. I stood frozen, praying he didn't notice the battery icon showing external device activity. He didn't, but he wasn't satisfied. Grabbed my phone next. "Unlock it." I did. The burner was hidden in a fake calculator app, everything sensitive cleared from history. He swiped through messages, photos, even my period tracker app. Found nothing. Finally shoved both devices back at me. "You're hiding something," he said, voice low and dangerous. "I can feel it." I met his eyes, let tears well up on cue. "I'm scared, Thorne. You're scaring me. The paranoia, the drinking. You're not yourself." It worked. He deflated, pulled me into a hug, apologized into my hair. "I'm under so much pressure, baby. People are trying to take what I built. I need to know you're on my side." "I am," I whispered against his chest. "Always." He believed me, slept like a rock that night. The next day, I drove to New Jersey, moved every digital file to the safe deposit box, and added physical prints of the most damning evidence. Bought a new burner phone, started using public Wi-Fi only for sensitive tasks. Quinn and I met one last time before Vegas in a crowded holiday market in Union Square, easy to blend in. She handed me finalized divorce papers, ready to file the second the conference chaos hit. Irrefutable evidence attached, financials for leverage, abuse recordings for protective orders if needed. "One more thing," she said, sipping spiked cider. "When it drops, he'll come for you, hard. Have an exit plan." I did. Hotel booked under Mia's name in Brooklyn Heights, go bag in my studio closet. Mia finally in the loop. She'd cried when I told her everything, apologized for all the "you're so lucky" comments. She was ready to pick me up the second I texted the code word, coffee. December crept closer. Thorne flew to Vegas early for prep. I followed 2 days later on a separate flight, told him I was doing a girls' spa weekend in Miami first. He bought it, too distracted by his keynote to argue. I checked into the Bellagio under my own name, close enough to the conference venue, walked the strip at night, heart pounding with every neon flash. The packets were en route, journalists had bites, the SEC was quietly investigating. Thorne texted me selfies from rehearsals, him on the massive stage, lights blazing, caption, "About to drop knowledge on the industry." I replied with heart eyes and "so proud of you, babe." Inside, I was ice. Everything was in place. His peak moment was coming, and I was ready to pull the thread that would unravel it all. But God, the waiting, the knowing it could still go wrong, that he might sense the trap at the last second, kept me awake in that hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours. Vegas glittered outside my window like false promises, and I whispered to myself, just a little longer. Hold the line. He'll never see it coming. December in Vegas is a fever dream. Millions of lights fighting the desert dark, fountains dancing to music, the constant chime of slots like a heartbeat you can't escape. I landed 2 days after Thorne, checked into the Bellagio under my real name, and told him I'd extended my girls' trip in Miami because Mia got food poisoning. He barely questioned it, too busy rehearsing his keynote, schmoozing investors, living his main character moment. His texts were short, cocky. Killing it out here, babe. Wish you were watching me own this stage. I was watching, just not from the seat, he thought. Quinn and I had planned every detail like a military op. The packets were already in motion. The SEC had quietly opened a file after the November drop, confirmed by a source Quinn trusted. Sentinel's board had received their envelope the week before. Insider whispers said the audit was accelerating, executives lawyering up. The press packet was timed for the morning of Thorne's speech, hand-delivered to 3 major tech reporters by a courier service paid in cash. My job was the final nudge. I spent the first day blending in. Yoga pants, oversized sunglasses, AirPods, just another tourist. I walked the conference venue at Caesars Forum, mapped exits, noted where press badges clustered. Thorne's face was everywhere. Massive banners for his keynote, Trust in the Age of AI, Ethical Leadership in Cybersecurity. The irony almost made me laugh out loud. That night, I met Quinn in a nondescript bar off the strip. Dim lights, sports on mute, locals only. She flew in under a fake name, paid cash for everything. We sat in a back booth. She slid a thin folder across the table. Last pieces, she said. Divorce petition ready to file in New York the second the speech ends. Restraining order pre-drafted if he gets physical. Whistleblower anonymity paperwork signed. And this, she tapped a USB drive, full dossier backup. Keep it on you at all times. I tucked it into the hidden pocket I'd sewn inside my jeans. What if he figures it out before it drops? He won't. He's too high on himself right now. But if he does, you text me red, and I call hotel security with an anonymous tip that he's suicidal. Buys you time to get out. We reviewed the timeline again. 9 a.m., press receives packets. 10:30 a.m., Thorne's keynote begins. 11:15, mid-Q&A, questions turn hostile as phones buzz with breaking alerts. 11:30, chaos. I'm in the audience, live streaming discreetly to Quinn on a burner phone hidden in my bag. Noon, Quinn files divorce in Manhattan. Servers hit his phone before he's off stage. I nodded, sipped my club soda. Calm on the outside, electric on the inside. Back at the hotel, I got reckless. One small move to rattle him before the fall. I ordered room service to our shared suite. He'd booked it for us when I arrived. A bottle of his favorite bourbon and a single glass. Had it charged to the room with a note, "Thinking of you, can't wait to celebrate tomorrow. E." He texted back immediately. "You're here? Why didn't you tell me?" I replied, "Surprise. Long story. See you after your big moment tomorrow. So proud." He sent a string of heart eyes emojis and a voice note. "God, I love you. This is gonna be huge, baby. Our life changes after this speech." I played it twice, saved it, then deleted the thread. That night, I barely slept, rehearsed every scenario in my head. What if security stopped me at the venue? What if the packets got delayed? What if he spotted me in the crowd early? I wore a new outfit the next morning. Sleek black blazer, silk blouse, hair straightened, glasses I didn't need. Looked like every other tech professional. Carried a fake conference badge Quinn's contact had made. Real enough to scan, registered under a Shell LLC. I arrived at 9:45 a.m., slipped into the keynote hall with the second wave, found a seat near the back aisle, easy exit. The room was packed, 2,000 people, giant screens, pulsing intro music. Thorne was backstage. I could see him on the monitors, pacing, adjusting his mic, that confident grin in place. At 10:30 sharp, the lights dimmed. The MC, a famous podcaster, introduced him like a rock star, the man who's redefining trust in tech, Thorne Blackwood. The crowd erupted. He strode out in a tailored navy suit, no tie, open collar, effortless power. Started strong. Jokes about hackers, stats on data breaches, slides with Sentinel's logo everywhere. The audience hung on every word. Phones up, recording, investors nodding, press row typing furiously. I sat stone still, thumb hovering over the burner's record button. At 11:05, the first phones started buzzing. I saw it ripple, heads turning, whispers. A reporter in the front row checked her tablet, eyes widening. Another got a call, stepped out. Thorne noticed too, mid-sentence about integrity as the new firewall. He faltered for half a beat. Recovered fast, but I knew him. I saw the tightness around his eyes. 11:12, the MC opened Q&A. First few questions softballs. Then a woman from Wired stood. Mr. Blackwood, we've just received documents alleging serious financial irregularities at Sentinel, including embezzlement and offshore accounts in your name. Care to comment? The room went dead silent. Then murmurs exploded. Thorne froze. Giant screens caught every second, his face draining of color, mouth opening, closing. That's absurd, obviously planted by competitors. Another reporter jumped up. Bloomberg. We're also seeing reports of inappropriate conduct with staff and potential SEC investigation. Is Sentinel aware? Chaos. Phones flashing, people standing, shouting questions. Security moved in. Thorne tried to speak. This is a coordinated attack, but the mic cut. The MC rushed on stage, muttering about technical difficulties. I was already moving, slipped out the side exit, heart slamming, burner streaming to Quinn the whole time. In the corridor, I heard him before I saw him, running footsteps, cursing. He burst through a staff door, suit jacket off, hair wild, eyes scanning. Spotted me instantly. Ilara? Shock, then suspicion. The hell are you doing here? I stopped 10 feet away, calm. Came to support you, babe. Looks like you need it. His face twisted. You knew. You fucking knew about this. I didn't answer, just held his gaze. He stepped closer, fists clenched, voice low and venomous. You bitch, you did this. People were spilling into the hallway now. Attendees, press, phones up. I took one step back, hit record on my real phone in my pocket. He lunged, not a hit, but grabbed my arm hard, yanked me towards him. We're leaving, now. That's when Quinn's call went through. Hotel security and Vegas PD tipped anonymously about an aggressive altercation involving keynote speaker. 3 guards appeared in seconds. Sir, let go of the lady. He released me, hands up, charming mask sliding back on. Misunderstanding, she's my wife. But the cameras were rolling. The moment went viral within minutes. Thorne Blackwood accosted after fraud allegations. I walked away while he argued with security, took the elevator down, Uber to the airport, texted Mia the code word, coffee. By the time his plane took off that night, him trying to get back to New York to fix this, divorce papers were already served to his assistant at Sentinel. The setup was perfect. The fall had begun, and I was finally, truly free.
Vegas had done its job. By the time I landed back in New York, Thorne Blackwood was trending nationwide for all the wrong reasons. Hashtag Sentinel Scandal was everywhere. Twitter threads dissected the leaked documents. CNBC ran a chyron. Cybersecurity CEO accused of fraud and misconduct. Clips of him grabbing my arm in the hallway looped on loop, slowed down, analyzed by body language experts on morning shows. The comments were brutal. Thought he was Mr. Perfect husband. Classic narcissist, charming until he's not. Former colleagues crawled out of the woodwork with their own stories. Leela deleted all her socials by noon. I watched it unfold from Mia's couch in Brooklyn Heights, wrapped in a blanket, phone on silent, takeout tie getting cold beside me. Mia kept refreshing pages, reading the best burns out loud. Listen to this one. Turns out the only thing Thorne was securing was his side piece. She tried to make me laugh, but I was numb. Adrenaline crash, Quinn called it. Normal after years of hypervigilance. Thorne, meanwhile, was in full damage control spiral. He flew back commercial. Private jets apparently get grounded when your company's under federal investigation, and holed up in our Tribeca loft. Reporters camped outside the lobby. Paparazzi snapped him in sweatpants buying vodka at the bodega. He blew up my phone. 47 missed calls. Voicemails that started pleading and ended raging. Alara, call me back. We can fix this. Then, you ungrateful bitch, you'll regret this. I saved every one. Quinn's advice. The divorce papers hit him at Sentinel's office the next morning. Process server caught it on body cam when security tried to block entry. By afternoon, the board put him on indefinite leave. Stock dropped 28%. Investors sued. The SEC froze his known accounts. He finally showed up at Mia's building 2 days later, unshaven, eyes wild, pounding on the intercom at 2 a.m. Mia threatened to call the cops. He left a handwritten letter slid under the door. 8 pages of love bombing, blame shifting, promises, threats. You're destroying us both. I'll fight this with everything I have. Come home and we'll start over. I photographed every page, sealed the original in an evidence bag, handed it to Quinn. That's when he made his last mistake.
He used his remaining key to get into the loft while I was at Quinn's office signing final disclosures. Thought I was still at Mia's. He trashed my studio, smashed my iMac, slashed canvases I'd been working on for a new portfolio, poured paint over my drawing table, left a note on the wreckage. This is what you get for betraying me. But he forgot one thing. The hidden cameras were still active, cloud-backed, motion-triggered. I'd left them running deliberately. Quinn had the footage to NYPD within hours. Burglary, vandalism, violating the temporary order of protection she'd filed the day I left Vegas. Cops picked him up at a midtown bar that same night. Handcuffs, perp walk, the whole tabloid dream. Bail posted by some loyal investor, but the optics were fatal. The unraveling accelerated. Leela flipped fast, gave a tearful interview to a women's site about how he'd love-bombed her, promised to leave me, then turned controlling and cruel. More women surfaced. A contractor he'd harassed, an intern who'd quit after he cornered her in an elevator. #MeToo energy hit the scandal like gasoline. Sentinel fired him officially a week later. Board statement, no tolerance for unethical behavior at any level. Federal charges followed. Wire fraud, securities fraud, tax evasion, the Cayman's accounts unsealed. Every dirty deal laid bare. His family disowned him publicly. Harper gave a quote to the Times, "I'm not surprised. This is who he's always been." Friends ghosted. The ones who didn't reached out to me instead. "Alara, we had no idea. If you need anything." I didn't reply to most, too raw. Thorne's lawyers tried to paint me as the mastermind, vindictive wife plants evidence. But the timestamps didn't lie. The recordings didn't lie. The paper trail I'd built over years was ironclad. Judge granted the divorce on fault grounds: extreme cruelty, infidelity, financial misconduct. I kept the loft, paid off with my own earnings, it turned out, my entire freelance business, and a settlement that made sure I'd never have to hustle again if I didn't want to. He got supervised visitation with nothing, because we never had kids, thank God, and a reputation in ashes. The last time I saw him in person was the final court hearing in March. He'd lost weight, suit hanging loose, eyes hollow. He stared at me across the room like he couldn't believe this was real. When the judge banged the gavel, divorce decreed, he stood up and said my name, voice cracking, "Alara." I didn't look back, just walked out into the Manhattan spring air, sunlight on my face for years without feeling watched. Quinn met me on the courthouse steps with coffee. "It's over," she said. "Not yet, but the worst part is." The media frenzy died down by summer. Thorne took a plea, 18 months in federal prison, 5 years probation, restitution in the millions he no longer had. Tabloids moved on to the next scandal. #Blackwood Bliss became a cautionary meme when couple goals go wrong. I sold the loft, Too Many Ghosts, and bought a sunny 2-bedroom in Fort Greene with a private roof deck, started therapy twice a week, reconnected with old clients, took on projects that actually excited me. Mia and I went to Italy for a month, ate our weight in pasta, danced in piazzas, didn't post a single photo. Some nights I still jolt awake at 3 a.m., checking locks, heart racing. Trauma doesn't vanish with a judge's signature, but the fear is smaller now, manageable. And sometimes, on quiet evenings with a glass of wine on my new deck, watching the Brooklyn lights, I let myself feel it, the fierce, clean satisfaction of watching a man who built his empire on my silence lose everything to my truth. No laws broken, no bones, just consequences. Perfectly measured, perfectly mine. The unraveling was complete, and I was finally fully free. It's been 18 months since the courthouse steps, and sometimes I still catch myself holding my breath. I'm sitting on the roof deck of my Fort Greene brownstone apartment on a crisp December evening in 2025, city lights twinkling below like someone scattered diamonds across black velvet. There's a string of Edison bulbs overhead, a heated blanket over my lap, and a mug of spiked hot chocolate steaming in my hand. My rescue dog, Luna, a scruffy mutt I adopted 6 months ago, snores softly at my feet. The air smells like pine from the tiny Christmas tree I finally put up this year. For the first time in forever, the holidays don't feel like a performance. Life now is quieter, but not small. I kept designing. Actually, I'm busier than ever. After the story broke, a lot of women reached out. Survivors, whistleblowers, creatives who'd been silenced in their own ways. I started taking on passion projects alongside the paid ones, book covers for domestic thriller authors who write about women taking back power, branding for nonprofits that support abuse survivors, even a limited edition print series called Silent No More. It sells out every drop. I didn't plan on becoming any kind of symbol, but here we are. My Instagram bio just says designer, survivor, still creating. The DMs still come. Your story gave me the courage to leave. I read every one, reply when I can. Therapy helped a lot. Twice a week turned into once, then once a month. EMDR for the nights I'd wake up hearing his voice in my head. Learning that hypervigilance isn't a flaw, it's what kept me alive long enough to fight back. Some triggers linger. A man raising his voice on the subway, the smell of that particular bourbon, seeing a midnight blue Porsche on the street. I breathe through them now. They don't own me anymore. Thorne's echoes still reach me sometimes, but they're faint. He served 14 months of his 18-month sentence, good behavior, white-collar prison perks. Released in September to a halfway house in upstate New York, probation for 5 years, ankle monitor, no internet access without supervision, restitution payments that will take decades. Sentinel collapsed, sold off in pieces to competitors. The name Blackwood is poison in tech circles now. Recruiters blacklisted him. His LinkedIn is deactivated. Last I heard through Quinn, who still checks court filings for me, he's working some low-level IT job under supervision, living in a studio that costs less per month than his old Porsche payment. He tried to reach me once after release, a letter forwarded through Quinn's office, 12 pages. Same cycle. Apology, self-pity, blame, veiled threats, promises of change. I didn't read past the first paragraph. Quinn filed for a permanent order of protection, approved in a week. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The revenge was never about watching him suffer forever. It was about making sure he could never hurt another woman the way he hurt me. And from what Harper shared, we text sometimes now, he's alone, truly alone, no charm left to wield. Friends came back slowly. The ones who believed me first, Mia especially, never left. Others sent awkward texts. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. Some I forgave, some I didn't. I learned boundaries aren't selfish, they are survival. And love? That took longer. I dated casually at first, bad setups from well-meaning friends, apps that felt exhausting. Then, 9 months ago, I met Jax at a gallery opening in Chelsea. He's a woodworker, builds custom furniture in Red Hook, hands always a little stained with walnut oil, laugh lines around his eyes. We bonded over a shared hatred of minimalist white oak everything. Our first date was coffee that turned into a 4-hour walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. He listened when I told him pieces of my story, not the whole thing yet, but enough. Didn't flinch, didn't try to fix me, just said, "That's a lot to carry. I'm glad you're still standing." We're taking it slow. He stayed over last weekend, cooked pasta in my kitchen, danced with me to old Motown on the record player, kissed me on the roof under those same Edison bulbs. It felt safe, real. Not perfect, but honest. The first time in years I've let someone touch me without bracing for the shift. Some days I still marvel at how far I've come, from that terrified woman collecting crumbs in the dark to this version of Alara, stronger, softer in the right places, and unapologetic about protecting my peace. I travel when I want, solo trip to Iceland last spring, northern lights so vivid they felt like a promise kept to my younger self. I mentor young designers now, especially women starting out in male-dominated spaces. Tell them, trust your gut, document everything. You don't have to stay silent. If I could go back to that first night, the wrist grab over the takeout receipt, would I leave sooner? Maybe, but I don't torture myself with what-ifs. That slow, careful path taught me exactly how strong I am, how patient, how lethal truth can be when wielded right. Quinn and I still grab coffee every few months. She calls me my favorite client success story. I call her my guardian angel in Louboutins. We laugh about it now. Tonight, as 2025 winds down, I'm thinking about the women still in the silence, the ones smiling for photos while bleeding inside. If you're reading this, if this story somehow found you, know this: you are not crazy. You are not alone. Watch closely, collect the truth, and when the time comes, strike clean, because the life you save will be your own. Luna stirs, stretches, puts her head on my knee. I scratch her ears and look out over the city that once felt like a cage. Now it feels like mine. The echoes of him are just that, echoes, fading. And my freedom? It's loud, bright, and entirely mine. Here's to the women who rebuild, to the ones who choose themselves, to the slow, careful, perfect revenge that breaks no laws, no bones, only the lies that tried to break us. We win, quietly, completely, forever.